Hello and welcome back. Today we will be doing a Victoria 3 tutorial on the top 10 places to build for local economies. These are the top 10 states for doing this. We have kind of a lot of parameters, but this is born out of the new mechanic introduced in patch 1.5, which is local economies, which you get the local prices, and in particular you get the market access price impact modifier. And what this modifier does, without going too much into it, because we've belabored it in other videos, is it makes it so that you want to both produce and consume goods in the same state. So for example, if we just click on here and then we click on an industry, we can say the tooling workshop requires steel, wood, coal, and it produces tools. And so it would be ideal for building a local economy. It would be ideal to have both wood and coal in the same state that you are building tools, assuming you're on something like this. And this would also mean down the chain you would also want iron for the production of this steel. And so this is what I mean by producing local economies. So it's not necessarily going to be the most valuable states. So for example, Illinois is a very valuable state because it has 90 lead, but this is not for considerations of local economies, because in local economies, the particular in the game for local economies, you generally are going to be more localized earlier in the game, and as you unlock technology like Zeppelins, and this is pending, we're in the 1.5 beta, this is likely to change, before you unlock technologies and and laws that give you more market access price impact, you really care about the local stuff. And so the consideration for all sorts of local economies is more of an early game framing, and so we are going to value early game resources. And what are those resources? The resources used in the basic production loop. In particular, we are going to care really a lot about iron frame buildings, because almost every country has access to this, and to a lesser extent steel frame buildings. And then once we're on arc welding, we probably have a very good MAPI score that we are less concerned about local economies, and our economies are a little bit more globalized. And so this framing is early game. And then third, or kind of like a fourth consideration we're going to have when evaluating these states, these top 10 states, is we're only going to give one per country. And the reason for this is that a lot of countries, or like half the best states, would be in one country, or like a third of them if we didn't do this, which I think is a little bit less dynamic a thing. And also, if in the context of thinking of early game, there's going to be a best place for a country to build, and they're going to build in that place, and they're not going to build in the second best place. And so I think it's also just an important framing that it's an opportunity cost to build somewhere else, and you're really not going to build in the second. Well, you build in the second best, you'll build in the first place first. And so to kick us off with our kind of Japan situation, we're going to talk about the number 10, and that is Hokkaido, which I think is the perfect example of a rainbow state. What I mean by rainbow state is it has one of every resource. It's got every color in the rainbow here, and this is the state that has the absolute most resources. The reason it's only coming in at number 10, even though, you can build the iron mines and the coal mines to build, the steel, and then you could build the explosives factory to help the steel, which uses sulfur, which you create sulfur. You get the whaling stations for the oil and the fishing wharves for the groceries. You get kind of everything with Hokkaido. And the reason it is scored at number 10 is I think it's a kind of good example, a prototypical example of what kind of we're looking for in these types of states, where we will be able to produce a little bit of everything. But it also really suffers because it only starts out with 18k pops, and Japan specifically, who starts with the state, starts with closed borders, which means you can't migrate any pops there, and so it's not really a viable place to build early on. It's also not fully colonized yet, but it does have a little bit of every resource, and so Hokkaido becomes quite strong, for this consideration of building local economies. And throughout the mid-game, if you start to get a bunch of pops here, your industries here will tend to be more efficient because they can consume and produce in the same place, and you can have local economies. You see we have the explosives factory, which is supporting the gold mines, and then, pretty soon we'll add, the tools and the engines and all this type of stuff. So this is kind of how we're thinking about this sort of thing. So that is 10th place, we have Hokkaido. In Ninth place, we have a province that's kind of similar to Hokkaido in that it has gold, and that is Transvaal. This is a state that most European countries can get pretty early. The population here is going to be one that you can integrate in 5 years, in particular for Europeans, so this will be a country or place to go for very on, and it has the 3 most important resources. Now, it doesn't have logging, a whole lot of logging. The 3 most important resources being logging, iron, and coal, and it doesn't have a whole lot of logging, and it's in this weird spot where it's hard to evaluate because it has gold, and you would prefer to have gold, generally speaking, and by building locally here, you can kind of make better use of the gold, because you can get the tooling workshops for the gold, and the steel mills for the gold, which you can produce with iron and coal, and so this was a little bit hard to rate, but it does have, you know, a very high level iron mine, a very high level coal mine, and it also has a positive coal modifier with no construction negative, and just to like honorable mention ones that are similar to this, you know, in terms of being good, Versat is also very, very similar. It's just not quite as good, although it does have more gold, and California is also very similar to this in this regard, but they do not have coal, notably. They do have a logging bonus, which is incredibly strong, because the logging and the iron are 2 most important things, and it also has a agricultural bonus, but it also has a construction malus, so it's not really the best. It's probably the best in Mexico at game start, although maybe not. I'd have to take a closer look at this. And then finally, Brunei is also similar, where it is a reasonable, you know, rainbow state, while having gold, and so it has the iron and it has the logging specifically. But that is number 9. We have Transvaal, as well as some states that are kind of like it. In 8th place, we have Lancashire from the UK. This is the best state in the UK. It has a bonus for coal mines, and it also has really, really high coal mines output, and as you transition into later in the game, it will actually be really nice to have a really big coal mine here, because almost all the labor-saving PMs use coal, and so as, you know, Lancashire transforms into tall proper, it will be extremely good. It also has over level 51 on the coal and the iron, which is an important breakpoint, because it will let you, you know, get over max level on, or get to the max level from mechanized, or sorry, not on mechanized workshops, that you get from shift work, the max economies of scale level, having a level 51, where Lancashire suffers, and it also has lead, and so, you know, kind of coming back into the construction sector, when we eventually transition into building glass, the presence of lead will be useful, because it will allow you to be more vertically integrated on that as well. So, having lead is really good. Where it suffers, the fishing wharves are also really nice, because you can build groceries, in terms of consumer goods, they're a little better. Where it suffers, it only has 9 logging camps, which is logging and iron are the 2 most important things, and so kind of when you have under 10 logging camps, this will suffer kind of in terms of the ranking quite a bit, because you won't be able to fully expand. Notable also in the UK is Midlands, which has, you know, coal mines, iron mines, again with the logging problem, but pretty much all of the states in the UK are quite strong on this front, you know, and so you'll see a lot of, you know, various states that are going to look good for building tall in the early game, or having localized economies in the early game. Lancashire, though it has not appeared yet here, does notably have oil, if I recall correctly, and so that's number 8, Lancashire. Okay, for number 6, we have to come to France, and that is going to be Rhone. Rhone notably has, you know, iron mines, coal mines, lead mines, and a little bit more logging than Lancashire, and so, you know, it might be the case that, you know, Lancashire also has another modifier we kind of want to mention, is that it does have the natural harbors, so you can build, for infrastructure, you can build up a little bit better in terms of the local economy, because you can build shipyards there. However, you can build railroads anyways, so it's not too big a deal. But what Rhone has that's distinct from Lancashire and puts it a little bit ahead, other than the additional logging camps, is it has silk and cotton. And so you can actually, these are 2 of the goods, 2 of the agricultural plantation-oriented goods that go into building clothes, and so you will be able to provide consumer goods, you know, for your vertical pump up, as it were, and this will be pretty good. you know, you won't have dyes, and dyes would be preferable because dyes go into glass as well. But the presence of both of these is a nice boon, as well as the total 100 arable land, which means you'll be able to build one of these for up to level 51 for max throughput, and the other one to a respectable 49. And so, you know, you will be able to crank up pretty well clothes and transition into a closed economy, which is something that's not really possible for most other countries or most other states on this list. Another mention, kind of shout out in the France, is Alsace-Lorraine, which in terms of just raw resources is a little bit better on the iron and the coal, because you can build both over level 51, and does have a higher logging camp amount, but it does not have access to the cotton and the silk for that. So that's number 7. We have Rhone. In 6th place is one of the states that's probably the best state overall as you transition into the late game, but for the purpose of talking in this video, you know, where we're talking about local economies, building early, we have Shanxi. Shanxi notably does have a agriculture and plantations throughput, which, while not the emphasis of what's good early on, is still going to be useful. You notably have 96 iron mines, 116 coal mines, you have discoverable oil, and you have, unfortunately, only 7 logging camps. So this is where Shanxi really in particular suffers, but you do have the sulfur mines, which are going to go into the explosives factory, and so you're going to have a nice churn on this, especially as you enter the late game or the mid game, you know, where you are producing decent levels of these things. This will be particularly good, and so Shanxi is going to be particularly good. Now, China also has several other states that are good. We have southern Manchuria, let's find it, is particularly good, also having, you know, a decent chunk of lead, and here we have level 25 logging camp, and so you might want to put it, and you have the silk and the cotton, so you can make an argument that this is better than Shanxi. You know, it still looks incredibly good. You have also over level 50 on both the iron and the coal, and so you'll transition quite well, but making use of both the logging camps as well as the cotton and the silk, you can make an argument. However, I think that the Shanxi eventually hitting the oil and having the sulfur, as well as having the plantations throughput, which is not present in southern Manchuria, is enough of a sway, but I think it's a fair argument. Outer Manchuria is similar to Transvaal in that it has iron, coal, a very large amount of logging camps, which is not the case in Transvaal, and a nice amount of iron mines, and so that will be pretty good. And also Yunan in China is pretty good, you know, just being solid, having iron, coal, logging, and also having the very, very strong rice farms, which in the current iteration of 1.5 has double the inputs, double the outputs, but the same construction cost, making it effectively 2 buildings for the price of 1. And so really, really strong states in China. There's several really strong states in China, but that is number 6, Shanxi from China. In 5th place, we have Pennsylvania in the United States, representing the United States with having 120 coal mines. Again, you'll transition better into the late game with the coal mines, with the labor-saving PMs being particularly high. We have 57 iron mines and 23 logging camps, which is a very large number. And so all across the board, we have really respectable ones, even though we're not as rainbow, you know, as like Hokkaido, where we don't have the sulfur mines and we don't have, you know, the lead mines. It's still a very, very nice spot to build. And notably, in Pennsylvania, we have 2 state bonuses. We have a hardwood output bonus and coal mines throughput bonus. And so Pennsylvania will be very, very good on these fronts. It also eventually will pip some oil. Not as good on the agricultural front, but this is well and fine. You know, you can build here, and in particular with the logging camps, you can choose to focus a little bit more on the furniture and make good use of that hardwood output bonus, and so this one will be quite good. Also notable in the United States is, as you get into the later portion of the game, New York is going to be extremely strong, because in addition to, you know, having respectable numbers on the iron and the logging, you will get to make use of Niagara Falls bonus, which is giving electricity output. That's not throughput, that's output. So it's just straight up increase. And so New York will eventually, after you get electricity, be extremely strong. And it also has New York Harbor, which is shipyards throughput, which we mentioned with Lancashire. And of the the 25% hardwood building output. A notable also good look is Alabama, which has, you know, a pretty good smattering of resources as well. Not as in high amounts as Pennsylvania and not with the bonuses, but once you max out your construction sectors in Pennsylvania, Alabama is probably the second place you want to build. USA notably has a ton of states with both coal and iron and a decent chunk of wood, and so there's plenty of places you can build tall. Okay, in fourth place, we have one that was greatly improved in 1.5, and that is Navarra. Now, Navarra, again, does not have these additional resources and has lower logging camps than Pennsylvania. However, we are scoring it higher than Pennsylvania because it has the very, very strong 20% iron mines throughput bonus. And since we're sensitive to the early game and we're sensitive to the construction loop, when you are building up the iron frames buildings specifically, and you're in this phase of the game, a majority of your mines will be the iron mines, and so this bonus is super, 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 super strong. And you know, it is this bonus and a 20% wood bonus are both extraordinarily strong, and so even though we have way less top end here in Navarra than we do in Pennsylvania, overall I think that it is stronger. We also get the fishing wharves, which is nice for the groceries, and also notable in Spain is Valencia, which has a good smattering of resources as well, and Aragon, which again, good resources, but not too good overall on the wood for there. So that's fourth place, Navarra. In third place, we have to come over to Belgium for Wallonia. Wallonia is quite good. We have 15 logging camps, and then we have the rainbow on the resources. We have every resource, and notably the iron mines and the coal mines are over 51, so this is fantastic. You won't really be approaching 51 in the early game with the sulfur or the lead, so this is fine. And we also have 10% coal mines throughput, which is very, very, very strong. There's only one other state in Belgium, and so it's not, I don't think it has any resources other than a good amount of wood, which, to be fair, a good amount of wood is good. But this is going to be Wallonia in third place. In second place, we have Silesia, which again hits the rainbow thing. It has just a little bit less logging, but overall it has way more resources and also way higher on the coal. The lead mines can go up to 54, so we can hit that nice 51 bonus and more sulfur. And so overall, even though I think it's worth it, you know, you could make an argument that Belgium having the one more wood is going to make it better early on, but I don't think the one more wood compensates for like kind of the late game stronger transition that you're going to have here in Silesia, as well as Silesia getting plus 15 infrastructure, so you won't have to build a railroad quite as fast, and also we do have this coal mines throughput that is also present in Wallonia. Notable other states in kind of this North German area are going to be Saxony, which is going to have, the coal mines, the sulfur mines, the iron mines, and the logging, a little bit low on the iron, and so it's okay. And then also we are going to have, you know, it's close to Rainbow. Westphalia, that is also pretty strong, very close to Rainbow. Again, not at 51 in the irons, but a whopping 24 logging camps. This is going to be quite strong really early on. But there is a lot of places like Ruhr, you know, Hesse in particular also looks quite strong. There's a lot of places in North Germany that have, you know, multiples of these resources. Okay, so that's Silesia in second place. And before we get to first place, I just want to talk about a few honorable mentions that I meant to do before talking about third place, but here we go. The first one is in Austria. I think Bohemia is probably the strongest state, where we have a nice chunk of logging camps, and we have the iron mines and the coal mines. There's a few states out to here that kind of look a little bit similar-ish, you know, where we have, you know, the 63 iron mines, 48 coal, 13 in northern Transylvania. But overall, I like Boho for, you know, building tall, mainly off the 17 logging camps, which is pretty good. Sardinia also looks pretty good. You know, we do have level 45 iron mine, lead mines, and coal mines. It's kind of low on the logging camp, but it is pretty good. We do get an infrastructure bonus here. I don't think Boho has a bonus, so they have a river bonus. Constantine is another one, just kind of briefly touch on, which would be really nice if it didn't have the state construction efficiency negative modifier and infrastructure modifier, but it has 20 iron mines. And while it doesn't have coal, which is another, if it had coal, it would be on this list. It does have a level 55 iron that is getting that 20% juice. And then another one to talk about is North Bengal, Delhi, and Punjab, which, you know, so the important thing is the construction loop. And these states do have something that is interesting in terms of a different loop, which is that they all have plantation throughput bonus, and they all have all the resources required to produce into clothes. So that's dye plantations, cotton plantations, and silk plantations. And so if you're going to build clothes in one place specifically luxury clothes, it's really, really nice. Now, you don't have rubber, but I don't think there's any state that has rubber, dyes, silk, and cotton. So something's gonna have to give somewhere. Notably, Punjab is the one with the 20% bonus. I believe that the other two are 15%. North Bengal might be 20%. Let's take a look. Yeah, so this North Bengal is 15%. Delhi is also going to be 15%. But Delhi has access to iron mines and logging camps, pretty solid levels. So Delhi is pretty close to making the list. But it has cotton, silk, and dyes. And notably on North Bengal, they do have the OP rice farms in particular, but they are going to have silk, dyes, and cotton as well, in addition to having opium. So you probably want to at least 51 each of these. The rice, the cotton, the silk, the opium, and the dyes, and then go crank up really heavy on the textile mills, and maybe try and get some tools in there, or probably just source the tools from elsewhere. Also, you have the level 30 iron mine and the level 29 logging camp. So that is a few honorable mentions there, and then to round it out, we have to come to Russia, which shouldn't surprise people who have watched a lot of my videos. We have first place Perm. Now, Perm has a level 25 logging camp, level 75 iron, and 80 coal. And while it does suffer from not having either sulfur or lead, it has iron mine building throughput and logging industry throughput. That's not hardwood throughput, that is logging throughput specifically. You know, the hardwood modifier, well, actually the hardwood modifier is really good because I think it's just output. But even still, softwood is going to be what you're more about early on, and this is going to be just hands down the best state to crank up early on. We have the logging, iron, and coal mines all together. We don't have too good on the arable land. It will somewhat to some degree fall off, but then later on you will get 60 oil here in Perm as well. And so this means that later on you can make really good use of any oil PM. And so, like, you know, if you're thinking about as the game goes on, stuff like glass, one of the best PMs for glass is an oil PM. And so while it doesn't have lead, it still builds into glass fairly well as a result of the oil. So I think Perm is incredibly strong. Honorable mention, or as other countries to note in Russia, is we have Tver, which, well, actually, this is just a really good state to note. It has 40 logging camps, but it doesn't have any iron. Ural is also extremely strong. It is similar to Perm. It has 96 iron, 84 coal. It has 27 logging and lead, but what it doesn't have is it doesn't have the logging camp throughput modifier. But you know, as logging kind of calms down is what's important, Ural will probably be better, but Ural also doesn't have the oil. And then Baikal also looks extraordinary good with the iron, the logging, the coal, and the sulfur, and so very, very rainbowy, and it doesn't have a logging throughput, but also just an incredibly strong state here in Russia. And so that was you know, kind of the top 10 states that you can build tall in, specifically having local economies, which are going to be very very valuable in the early game. We are, of course, really valuing in here just the construction loop, and so, you know, your ability to produce wood, iron, and tools specifically, really valuing the coal, iron, and wood in this metric, and then secondarily starting to value sulfur and, lead. I hope this video was interesting. If it was, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and other than that, have a good day.